This is an interview by Roland Matthies of Jack Gochenouer, formerly of the Tecumseh Council staff of the Boy Scouts of America. I'm interviewing him to obtain all the history that we can find for the Historical Society permanent archives, with particular reference to Camp Birch and the work that his father and he accomplished at that place and under whose direction. So, Jack, this is the 12th of August. The day is a warm one, and there's a lot of traffic out here.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
No doubt about that.
But you have a most pleasant home, and I'm delighted to come and say hello.
You get used to the traffic. That's but as far as Camp Birch goes, first camp was started in 1936. E.J. Carney built a cabin down there, and then they moved the Kiwanis Lodge over from Camp Miami, which was in John Bryant Park, because they wanted to make it a state park, so they allowed us to take one building, which was K Lodge. So they tore it apart and moved it over and made a dining hall out of it. That was the first dining hall in camp. Then there was no ranger till 1954. And a guy named Bob Slayton was a part-time ranger for 2 years. And that's when they started building the rest of camp, the north section where the new dining hall and the campsites are.
About what was the acreage in the beginning?
25 acres. They had 25 acres that Hugh Taylor Birch had given, which was all wooded down in the old part, which we still have. It was on like a user's lease for life, as long as we use it for scouting purposes, because it juts down into the park acreage by about 700 feet. So we can use it as long as we use it for scouting purposes, and which it always will be. I mean, we're not planning on doing anything else. And then we're up to about 400 acres now. They acquired in 1949 or 50. They acquired the ground which they expanded from Chester Slavey, and it was a long swimming pool road. And they built the new dining hall, cabins, the administration building, and things like that. And the swimming pool, my dad went there in 1956, and he was there from 56 to 73. He started out, I believe Bill Parker was scout executive, and then Joe Bannett was his boss after that. And then Bud Derringer came in after Bannett left and was still scout executive. My dad was a part-time ranger. He worked at Steel Products Engineering in the daytime and took care of camp at night.
Oh.
And because we only had about, at the time, 25, 60, right at 100 acres. And then in 70, they run a capital campaign, and they bought the Anderson farm and Polk Finney farm, which brought us the rest of the acreage clear over to John Bryant Park Road now, which is the west edge of camp. So, and then in 77, there was 2 people in between my dad and me for a period of covering 4 years, part-time people. And I came in 77 as a full-time ranger. And by then we started expanding to the western side of camp with campsites and new rifle range and program areas going that way. But camp has grown quite a bit since I've been in scouting. I've been in scouting since 1947, so I made my first trip to Camp Birch when I was 3, and I worked on staff in 49 and 50. So camp has been pretty much in my blood. But
I got in under the influence of Put Sandoz, and Parker was the exec,
Right.
1946.
I knew Parker. I didn't, I was a kid when I knew Bill. I wasn't very old, but Bannock and Derringer I knew real well. And I learned most of my skills from the camp. People ask me where I learned to do carpenter and plumbing and electric. It was all down camp. I mean, my dad was there, and that's what we done. That was the basics of maintenance at camp. That's what we were, maintenance people, taking care of camp. And,
So you lived right at the camp
I lived
from 47?
No, my dad moved down here. I lived on West Washington Street in Springfield until 1950. We moved to the south side of town. And in 56, my dad moved to camp. And I lived down there 3 years, and then I got married, and of course started my own family, so I moved away from there. And then but I worked down there probably every other weekend, helping my dad, and until he retired in '73. And then in '77, they asked me if I'd remodel the Ranger's house, which I did, and I applied for the job then. And because I didn't like the way camp was going, I mean, part-time just wasn't getting, there was too many buildings, too much work to do for a part-time person to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I applied and got the job and was there 21 years. So I've seen a lot of changes in camp since I started, clear back when I first made my trips down there as a Boy Scout.
Now you retired on a disability?
Right. I had a stroke and fell off the building, which I hadn't planned on retiring necessarily. I planned on retiring going until I was 65, but they wouldn't let me go back to work, so that put a crimp in my style. I still go down. I belong to a group called Wilderness Engineers at camp.
Bob Beach?
Bob Beach, Bob McHenry, Carl Patterson, Red Lawson. There's 22 of us. And it's an open group. It's not a closed group. Anybody can come down and wants to get their hands dirty. Well, they can come down and get their hands dirty. We were just down there Saturday, and we'll be down the 21st. We go down 2 weekends a month and work on camp projects. Camp has gotten to the place now where it's too much for one full-time person. He needs some help. So I volunteer now, and we go down, like I say, I go once a month at least. There's times when I can't get down, but, and it's, they're getting quite a bit accomplished. Sometimes it's a little slow, but just too much for one man. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to help him out and get him over some rough spots because he's never been a ranger before. So, he has to do the manual side plus the good neighbor side, and you got to be a politician. Well, the politician to fall into this job, and because you change executives about every 4 years, so you got to kind of warm up to the executive to see what his feelings are going to be.
Yeah.
And every one of them want to change something. I don't care what it is. They want to change something. 1988, we decided that we didn't have any water in the lake. And so 1988, Bill Fisher decided that we was going to clean the lake out. Well, from October till December, we took 168,000 cubic yards of dirt out of that lake. Silt and stuff had built up over the 30 years that the lake had been in existence. So they built the lake originally in 1950.
Way back then?
Yeah.
Had there been a swimming pool there?
No, we used to use the Orton Pool. Orton Pool was belonged to John Bryan State Park. And we used to hike from there over. And we would use the pool in the morning, and the 4-H camp would use the pool in the afternoon because they didn't have a pool either. And they would come across the gorge and use the Orton Pool in the afternoon. We used it in the morning. And then 1956, they built the pool at camp. started using the pool there then. And then I think the following year, the 4-H camp built their own. And so, you know, it's Horton Pool was strictly a state park pool then, and everybody started charging a fee for everybody to use that. But the lake is done well since we cleaned it out. We had 1 acre of lake, 1 acre of water in an 8-acre lake in 1988. So when you dry up the lake and you don't have a boating program, your summer camp program doesn't go too well.
Yeah.
Because you have to do everything else to compensate for that program out there. And that's what kids come to camp for, is to get wet. Whether they tip them canoes over or just dive in the lake.
We all recognize that volunteerism is such a wonderful thing in scouting and in a lot of community projects. Just take that one project alone, that huge thing of developing the lake. Who do you think of as individuals that we ought to be awfully proud contributed to it? Like Don.
Well, between Eric Samuelson, we use a lot of Eric's equipment.
That's Don's.
Samuelson. Eric is Don's boy.
Yeah.
We used an awful lot of their equipment. And between Eric and Bob Holland, who owns Holland Construction, they were technical advisors on that lake. They fixed it up so I had the equipment, and I hired 6 operators. We worked 5 in the morning till midnight, 7 days a week, cleaning that lake out. And we hired a dump truck company to come in and haul the dirt. The dirt went to Southwestern Portland Cement Company. They wanted the clay to put in the kilns down there to eat up the sulfur when they was firing the coal. And the other dirt they wanted to put around their levees that they have to, when they reclaim a pit, they have to put them levees up. And this gives them good topsoil.
Mm-hmm.
So we were selling it to them like $1 a yard or whatever. Cost us more than that to take it out, but at least we were getting rid of it. And then we increased, the spillway pipe was eroded, the south side of the dam's bad. We laid 120 feet of pipe so that we carried it down. It was washing out our water lines and electric lines across the creek. So we carried that out, we built it back up and laid the pipe so it went beyond them. And it spilled down beyond the pipe now. And then we had to cut a new emergency spillway in the dam according to the state, which had to be 2 foot higher than the other spillway where the water goes out all the time. Well, when we'd done that, that left us a 6 foot hole, 6 or 8 foot hole that we had to put a bridge in over to get from the dining hall to the dam then.
Yeah.
And so Bob Brown, who worked for Ameritech at the time, he was acquainted with the county engineer in Greene County. Well, they were getting ready to tear down the Beckett Road Bridge over the railroad. So they had done away with the railroad tracks. So he talked to county engineers to bring the bridge pieces up. So we used them to make 2 foot bridges and a service bridge to go across this. Well, he laid up all the stone to hold up them bridges by hand.
Oh.
And then we laid up the bridge and welded them back together and put a footbridge over 2 of them. We laid them down on their sides and put footbridges on. From there to Carmody and from the dam, or from the dining hall to the dam. So that way we didn't have to try to taper off the dam or the hillside or anything going from the dining hall down.
That was a huge project.
It was. It took us from October till about the middle of December, and it started freezing up on us. It got cold weather. And we lowered the north end of the lake by 30 inches. We took 30 inches of silt, and then we took 30 inches of more dirt out of it. And we widened the dam itself. We went from the top of the dam 10 feet wide, and it's about 60 feet wide now.
Mm-hmm.
We added more dirt to the south side of the dam, which strengthened the dam itself. So no matter how much water gets in there now, it'll run through the emergency spillway before it'll ever go over the top of it. So But that was a huge project for us, and
It's a beautiful lake.
it is.
Yeah.
When they built the lake originally, there was 2 islands left in there. Well, they talked Joe Bannon was Scout executive when they built the lake, and Carano was the excavator, Frank Carano, and these guys talked Joe into leaving 2 islands out there, and it was aesthetic. I mean, they looked nice, and for about 4 or 5 years, they served a purpose. They put a signaling tower out there, and they had bird boxes and duck boxes and all that out there. And then the islands started eroding down into the lake. Well, I could leave the boat dock, and I weighed 185 to 195 pounds, and I could go across in a canoe and get stuck in the middle of the lake because the water was only about 6 inches deep over the top of them islands. So we took, in the process of cleaning the lake, we took those 2 islands clear on out there, which gave us a lot of dirt that we took out just taking them out. And then we built a new retaining wall at the boat dock area, and poured a cement ramp so we get the boats in now a lot easier. And there was for about 7 or 8 years, there was an awful lot of new work being done at camp to bring it up to every year national standards change.
Yeah.
And so you end up having to change this or that, and we always tried to stay ahead of them.
The dining hall certainly deserved a lot of attention.
Yes.
And got it finally.
There were 2 different times the dining halls got attention, and one of them was under Fisher, the other was under Bill Deany, and Blair Young. Now that kitchen got totally remodeled under Blair Young and Bill Deany, and there was a lot of volunteer work on that.
Bill Deany, I don't think so.
He was Scout executive. He's the one that just left here.
Yeah.
He went to Virginia Beach, Virginia. He came in after Bill Fisher left, and we built a walk-in freezer and refrigerator in the dining hall. And this was something we took on ourselves. We asked the man down at Progressive, and he said, yeah, he said, it'll work. He told us what we needed to do, so we went about building this thing in because we kept having freezer problems and refrigeration problems, and stuff was getting old. It was built in the first meals were served in 56. So you figure these compressors were clear back to then. And we're looking at 40 years, and it's too long for them to go when you only run 3-4 months out of the year and they're shut down for 8 months.
In June, when I was there with my wife for the annual meeting, I was at the end of the line for eating, and they ran out.
Uh-oh. That's unusual.
Blair was really embarrassed.
I imagine he was.
Yeah, we had potatoes and salad, but we didn't have any turkey.
That's a first for Blair, because I've never seen him run out of food at any one of them dinners that he's catered,
Hasn't he been a tremendous help?
I like Blair. Blair had a lot on the ball as far as, he had a lot of, for the council. He puts his heart into everything he does.
Right.
So, and him, I'll tell you another one was Jim Hall. Jim Hall was president before him.
Yes, the big fellow.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Jim, whatever Jim done, he went all out. I mean, that was 110% whatever he did.
I was amazed that he could do as much as he did physically with that peculiar build he had.
Jim scared me at times because, he'd get to huffing and puffing and scare the tar out of him, of his build. But,
he's from Urbana?
Right. He owns Hall Company up in Urbana. But, I liked all of them. And I worked, the execs that I worked for, probably my pick of execs was Virg Watson.
Huh? I was wondering about that because he was my pick.
Yeah.
And I served the council under him as
He
president.
hired me, and I really enjoyed working for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, My wife worked for him too, at the council office.
That's
She was
right.
trading post manager.
Yeah.
When he left, that took a little bit out.
Yeah.
George Stone wasn't bad. And they all have different ways of doing things, regardless of what you do. I mean, you're still after the same end, but they have a different way of getting there.
Fisher left a lot of things undone.
Yes. Me and Bill got into it more than once, and nothing really serious. It was just, we couldn't hit on the same notes, you know.
Yeah.
He'd want it done one way, and I knew things at camp just wasn't going to work that way. I mean, you can try it, but why try it if you know it's not going to work and spend a lot of extra time when you can...
Why do we have to change executives so often?
Well, they always told me that it's like a preacher in a church. After a while, you sit and you get the same preacher and you're listening to a sermon and you're nodding off, and you change preachers next week and he gives you the same sermon and you're wide awake because you want to hear what he's got to say. And it's the same sermon as the week before. So they tell me this, and that's the only way they can get promoted. In other words, they can't
Up
be...
the ladder.
Right, they can't be promoted within the council, so they have to go to another class council in order to go up. And when George left here, he went to Rockford, Illinois, which was a higher class council, which he had more people in a bigger area, and Fisher went to Northwest Suburbia Council outside Chicago. So, and George since then has become area director, which is a higher, he works for the region now. And he is the scout executive boss here, as far as scouting goes. Mike John still has to answer to the board here, but I mean, he also has to answer to George, because George is the area director for the region.
It seems to me, I'm just an honorary member of the council anymore, that Mike is accomplishing a number of things.
Yeah, Mike's a good guy. I've talked to him several times. He helped me out a lot when this disability thing was pending and all that. And I talked to him a couple of weeks ago, and he said most of the money's coming in now was what Bill Deaney started. In other words, he got the thing started. He went to Virginia Beach because he got a bigger council and could go up the ladder. And what's coming in now is what he had gotten started a couple years ago. And, you know, it's going to hit a plateau, and as soon as that plateau, then whatever Mike has started, then that'll show up on him. So,
Yeah.
And really, it don't make no difference to me as long as it comes in.
It looks to me as if the financial undergirding is top rate right now.
I think the council's probably in the best shape it's ever been, probably in the last 25 years.
Yeah.
Birch had some rough times because he didn't have any money.
Honestly.
But he done it. If I had a problem at camp, his answer was, you get it fixed and I'll find the money. You know, if it was an emergency type thing, a pump went out or the water system or something like that. If you get it fixed, call me and I'll find the money. And that was Birch. That's what I liked about Birch, because he gave you a way to run it. I mean, you know, you knew what your limits was with it, and you knew what you could do and what you couldn't do, but he let you do it on your own. You know, he trusted you to handle it.
And I always thought he was quite a gentleman.
He was. He treated his personnel excellent. They came first. His staff came before anything else did. If a staff member had a problem, whether it be physical or personal or whatever, you could go talk to Birch.
Do you know where he is now?
He's down at Lebanon. There's one in church housing things down there.
Is that right?
Yeah, him and Betty.
I I must get on and see him.
She's not very,
Oh, she hasn't been well for years.
she's a lot worse now. Somebody seen him here a while back. Can't remember who it was. But he's living down in Lebanon.
I think that's a Methodist
Methodist
retirement. Yeah.
I was trying to get the right words as to what it is.
Couldn't think of the name of it now.
But he moved down there, oh, what, 6, 7, 8 years ago. They had to get into something where he couldn't travel anymore. Betty couldn't travel, and so he had to do something. He couldn't take care of this house out here, so he get into one of them where they take care of the lawns and all that kind of stuff. So, but he's living down there. I get a Christmas card from him every year.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. When I was the council president, he had to come to my office with the checks, and I had to hand sign everything.
I still do.
Is that right?
Takes 2 signatures on every check.
Even in this day of computers? Huh.
There's still 2 signatures on every check. It's set up now where the scout executive can sign one, and then he gets usually the president of council or a designee to be the other signature. That eliminated a lot of running around, but there's still 2 signatures on every check. Yeah, even though they're on a computerized bookkeeping system, some things don't change. I mean, Well, I think in a nonprofit, you kind of have to look at some of them types of things because of the things that could go on very easily.
Very true.
And, we've got an excellent bookkeeper up there. She got into that job that the other gal messed up so bad that it was pitiful. So.
Who was that? Robin?
No, the gal that came in after Nancy France left. She was there, I don't know how many months. She messed up the books so bad it was pitiful. Now Robin left. She went to the post office. Now she's working for the veterinarian down in Beaver Creek and living with her parents in Kettering.
Oh.
So she just had enough of that type of push and pull, I guess. Yeah, office manager job can be good or bad. I mean, it can, I know they offered it my wife once, and she said no, she didn't. Just too much, because you're over all them people. And catch a lot of flack from the DEs because they want everything done yesterday. They don't bring it to you till tomorrow, But
How do you feel about the future of scouting?
I think scouting is going to flourish, and it's going to stay there. I think really that scouting will do better. It seems to do better when the economy's down because they don't have anything else to do. So they end up in the scouts. But the numbers are up right now.
Yes, they are.
Which is a good indication. And in fact, our numbers are up better than the national numbers are up.
And I think camp was very well attended.
Yeah. Well, along with the regular camp, then they have the challenge camp, which is cooperation with the school board in Springfield, and then they have their camp, which is with the sheriff's department, So there's a couple things going there, and as far as camps, they've got to have the outside enters in order to survive anymore. It costs too much to maintain them, and you have to raise so much money that, if you don't, put it on an outside enters where you rent it out or whatever. That's why a lot of council camps are folding up, because they can't afford to maintain them.
Please turn the tape. This is a continuation of the interview with Jack Gochenouer. Well, Jack, we're getting close to the end of that side of the tape, and I just switched it over. I think I sense from what Bob Beach has told me that this is a new house that we're in,
Well,
from the standpoint of your occupancy.
yes, I bought it May of 1998 from Betty Stanley. Her husband used to be scoutmaster at Troop 25, so we're still staying in scouting. So when I had to leave camp, I had to find a house because the camp house that I lived in was part of my salary. And when they hire a new guy, why, you got to leave because they got to give him a house. So we bought it a year ago, May. And
It's very attractive. I think your wife has a touch.
yeah, she likes to decorate, so I'll let her go, whatever she wants to do, you know.
Yeah.
But we'd like to do some things to it, but it's like every house you do, there's things you want to do, and there's things that's going to have to be done sooner or later. Because Betty lived here, and Bill died about 9 years ago, and from that time, she was 68 last year, so she was taking care of this by herself.
Yeah.
So I have an acre and a quarter here of ground, so we mow all of it. So she was mowing all that by herself. I mean, taking care of the yard and trying to take care of the house. So there's some things we want to do to it, but.
You have a garden?
Yeah, we had a garden last year. We had one this year. Last year wasn't too good because we got it in late, and so we didn't move in here till May. This year wasn't bad, except for the hot weather. Withered a lot of the plants, so it doesn't strip it down. But now I have my carpenter shop in the garage, and I just acquired a saw sharpening business. Man, Bill and Sandy Fiesel, her stepdad, died about 4 years ago. They had it all sitting down there, and they wanted to know if I wanted to try my hand at it. And I said, yeah, make a little extra income. So they gave me all of his machinery, so I have 7 pieces of saw sharpening machinery out there. So I'm getting that set up now and trying to watch technical videos that are so dry that you tend to go to sleep trying to watch the darn thing. That I can sharpen a lot of saws, but there's some saws I can't, so I got to watch the videos and learn how to do that. So, but it's enough to keep me going, just doing everything.
I heard just the other day from my son, who's very sharp on various things like that, that today there are battery-powered saws that you can carry on the job and cut timbers with.
Yep.
They've got enough, and there are battery-powered hammers that are powerful enough to drive a spike.
Yeah, the framing hammers, some of them are battery operated. Some of the skill saws are battery operated.
That's what I was trying to think of, yeah.
I run a battery operated drill, which I carry around with me a lot because I don't have to drag an extension cord. And it's ideal for inside or outside, or jump on a ladder. You don't have to worry about a cord.
You see a roofing man now putting shingles down?
Oh yeah, they just hammer the thing in with a nail gun now. So.
Yeah.
But I'm not allowed to climb, and I'm not allowed to lift a lot, according to doctors. I can't do an occupational job.
Is it hard?
Well, that was from the stroke. They don't want me doing I can't climb or get up on the roof of ladders or anything like that anymore. They don't want me lifting over 40 pounds. I just went back to driving in May. I hadn't driven since October of '97.
Wow.
So it was a different experience for me, and I've driven all my life, and I'm 62 years old, so I've driven since I was 16 years old. So I have my wife drive me every place I went. And it got to be a burden on her because if I needed a piece of lumber, she had to drive me down to the lumber yard. or whatever, and she had to stop what she was doing, where before, I was used to just getting in the truck and zipping to the hardware store or whatever, you know. So it was a total different experience.
Just for the fun of it, where do you go when you go to a hardware store today?
Usually Lowe's.
I thought that'd be the answer.
Once in a while I go to Furrows, but Lowe's has a better selection of stuff.
Have you been to the new store on Dur Road?
There was Downey's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice people.
John's tied up a scouting. I knew John when he was manager at Handyman on Burn Road. He was Don Omar's right-hand man at one time, who owned Handyman.
Oh.
And he would go from store to store if he'd get one that was messing up and sales was lagging and one thing or another. Well, they'd ship John down there to straighten the stores out. And so he decided that he was getting tired of moving around. And of course, Don had already sold the business and retired. So John said, I'm going to start my own. Well, there was nothing in the north side of town really as far as a hardware store went. And I think John will do real well over there. John's a knowledgeable person.
Well, the people in his employ are certainly courteous.
Yes.
They know where the stock is.
Right, right. I was over taking care of Paul Price when a couple of weeks ago he had a balloon an artery on the backside of the heart that was 99% blocked. Well, I'd taken him to Franciscan for the catheterization, and then they come out and wanted her consent. Well, she didn't know what it was all about, so she wanted to know if I'd go back with her. Well, I went back and I seen the film, and it was 99% blocked for about an inch and a quarter long. And they wanted consent to do a balloon on him, which they wanted, because he was under Valium and couldn't consent. They give you Valium when they do that catheterization. So she looked at me and she said, what am I going to do? I said, give him consent. He needs to have that opened up. So they did, and he was down there overnight, and I've been over mowing his grass, and he just went to the doctor day before yesterday. So yeah, I'll be back to, doing things that on his own now. So he's sure thinks different.
Really?
Yes. I hope he slows down some from the amount of things that he's been trying to do.
When he got back into the ministry thing, on top of all that he was doing, I thought, boy, oh boy, you're asking for trouble.
Yeah.
Then he was carrying too much weight.
He's been walking every day. He gets put around the block now, which is good for him. And they want him to do that. They want him to walk every day. But he was, like you say, he got back into that, and he's still working for Vic Nobel and Secretary Kiwanis, and just too much. I don't care how good you are, you can only do so much. And
It gets on the brain after a while, and that gets to the ticker, and pretty soon you're in trouble.
Stress does terrible things to you.
Yeah.
I've been down that route. In '90, they'd done a triple bypass on this rod, and it all really started clear back in '88 when I was working all in hours when we cleaned the lake out. We was cleaning that lake out. I was working 5 in the morning till midnight, 7 days a week. Well, you start that, well, it comes up on you somewhere along the line. Now, it didn't do it then, but it did it in '90.
What kind of a disability are you on? Scout or is it?
Boy Scouts have their own disability program. It's all long term. It's administered by Standard Insurance. The check comes from Standard, but their money comes from the Boy Scouts. And I get 60% of what I was making before on a monthly basis. So it comes out about $1,800 a month. And I have a 30-year guard pension that I get a little over $300 a month off of that. So, if you watch what you're doing, well, you can
buy many lottery tickets.
No. I buy one once in a while, hoping that it hits, but that's what I say. If I can, they'll let me go back to work in a non-occupational job, but then they deduct 50% of everything I make from a disability check.
Yeah.
And then you had to, with the Boy Scouts thing, you have to file for Social Security disability. Well, that's up to a hearing stage now. United twice, it's up to a hearing stage. And the hearing will be sometime before the end of the year.
Well, what would that do? That'd take you off of their program?
No, they won't take me off of their program. It'll give me my Social Security at what I would be making at age 65. Well, that's what I would get Social Security disability money now. And they would deduct a maximum of $800 off of my Boy Scout disability money.
So you'd be better off.
Yeah. Now, see, the Social Security disability affects my long-term disability. My long-term disability doesn't affect what I get off of Social Security, or what I would, if it ever goes through. And there's nothing says that it'll go through even after the hearing. And the company that's handling this thing is out of St. Louis, Missouri. If they win this thing, they will pay me, Social Security pay me clear back till the 7th of October 1997, when I had the stroke. Okay. They'll pay me clear back to then. Well, this company gets 25% right off the top. Standard Insurance gets paid back everything that they paid me till February of 98. The Boy Scouts ain't losing a thing. And then I get whatever's left. So I may get enough for me and Dee to go get a Coke. But, there's a couple of ways of looking at it. The Boy Scouts would like for me to take an early pension in 2000, take an early retirement, which would cut my pension by 18%, and then Social Security by another 18%. So I'd be about 30% under what I'm making right now. So it's but I could make $9,600 a year and not have to look over my shoulder to see who's watching to what I'm doing to make money.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. So much of it will depend on your physique.
Right. If they win the Social Security thing, then you're not allowed to do anything. I mean, you can't make any money. And we've had a handicraft business for years. My wife has, and I've cut the material out in the shop for it. And technically, I wouldn't even be allowed to do that. So, which way do you go? Do you say the heck with that and take the early retirement? I don't know. There's too many. I told the gal the other day that it's frustrating because you're between the rock and the hard spot.
Right. Trying to get to the future.
Yep. And these people nowadays that don't put something back for the future, we put it back and we've used it up already. Just bypassing cost me $7,500 in my savings money. That was what the insurance didn't pay. It don't take long that you can lose a lot of money.
Yeah. You can't get covered by Medicare until you qualify for Social Security.
See, that would, if they give me the Social Security disability, then I'd be under Medicare. And, see, right now, Boy Scouts are still paying my insurance. They want $185 a month for my wife's insurance. Well, I'm retired from the Guard, so I can use the base hospital, which I don't because the Boy Scouts are still paying mine, and I didn't want to have to change doctors in midstream of all this stuff and go through all the tests again. So I put my wife down at the hospital on TRICARE for $230 a year. A lot of difference than $185 a month. I do save the insurance company money because I get all my medicine from the base, and that doesn't cost me anything. So, retire, early retirement, then I'd go to base, drop my Boy Scout and go to base. It still wouldn't cost me anything. So,
Well, it's been fun talking with you.
well,
I got to know you better.
I've enjoyed talking to you. I'm glad you come out. I don't know how much we got accomplished about camp, but
Well, I think it's the story is that you were vitally involved, and that's the big story.
well, camp was a lot of my life.
Right.
A lot of it.
Yeah.
I raised 3 kids at that camp, and they were involved in camp. So, a ranger's job at camp is a family job. It's not one person; it's a family job.
How's your dad doing?
He's doing well. Had low leg problems. He'll be up here 25th of September. He's coming up on the 18th, going back on the 26th. We're having an open house for him on the 25th.
Are you?
He'll be 85 years old. So we're going to have, my sisters are having the open house. We're providing the house, because he stays with us. And he does pretty good. Other than his legs bothering him, he's still fairly chipper, so he tries to get out every day, and do things.
I'd like to come out and see you.
The 25th will be on a Saturday, 25th of September, or you can give me a call and come out during the week. I mean, but I know I don't know what the time frame for the open house is. It'll be in the afternoon, I know that.
I'm the lucky guy. I'm older than he is and have better health.
Well, he's, like I say, he's doing, other than his legs bothering him, he does pretty good. So, back Saturday, we're taking my granddaughter down to the airport, and he's flying her to Florida for 2 weeks. 9 years old, first time she's ever been on a plane.
Wow.
All by herself.
Oh, my.
So the airplane, people take care of her,
Sure.
between flights, make sure she gets on the right flight. And they stay with her. Somebody stayed with her between the 2 flights. Costs a little extra money, but that's well worth it.
Yeah.
So they make sure she gets her bag from this plane to that plane. If she needs something to eat, they make sure she gets something to eat. So,
Well, friend, thank you much.